reason that there's so many Americans that have an issue with evolution? Do you think it's fear or our start as a Puritan group of colonies, or what is it, something else?
I think you wanted that one, didn't you?
Well, yes. I think look, I'm an evolutionist, and I think the answer to the present is in the past. And I would want to say it's obviously a major part, a function of your distinctive history. That this was a religious nation. It was founded by religious people who came to these shores either because they wanted to practice their own religion, or more particularly, they didn't want to be the victims of other people's religion and these sorts of things. I think that after the revolution, particularly Americans were looking for guidance. How do you live your life? And they no longer had the mores, the traditions of the old world to support them. And so at this point in the 19th century, if you like, the preachers, the Billy Grahams of the day, moved in. And the Bible became very much a basis for daily living, much more, I think, much more so even than the 18th or the 17th centuries. Now, complicating this fact is the Civil War, and particularly after the Civil War, in the South and as one moved west, the Bible became more and more almost what shall I call it, a kind of a cultural thing as well as a religious thing, because the Bible was, I mean, one of the things the Bible tells us is that God often afflicts those that he loves most. And people read it this way. People in the South and elsewhere said, you know, terrible things are happening to us, but that's okay. It doesn't mean to say that God's abandoned us. It means perhaps he expects us to labor on in these ways. And so, to a great extent, I see the Bible and literalism as bound up culturally. And I think it's true today. I honestly don't think that the intelligent design people or the literalists are lying awake worrying about spots on butterflies' wings. I truly don't think that they're lying awake saying, oh my God, toolbox genes, it's going to blast our theology all to hell.
I'd like to respond to whether people should be scared of people like Sean and I. I think not. I think that, again, Sean said you can choose to ignore facts or not, but the facts continue to exist. And I'd like to point out that it's not that the facts are all scary, right? I mean, the facts of evolution and the way evolution works really is critical to everybody, including all sorts of medical issues as well. So the same people who may be afraid to hear about how genes work, I think will be very glad to know when they're being treated with antibiotics for an infection, or when they might unfortunately get a tumor, and the tumor is trying to evolve to spread throughout the body. Those sorts of genetic events that geneticists study, like geneticists at the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, like our colleagues, this understanding of how mutations occur in cells and organisms, change them, allow them to have competitive advantages for infections to spread, for tumors to spread. This is the same kind of understanding that's absolutely critical to the treatments that are going to apply to most of the people in the world, including the people who may be afraid of the information that's coming from genetics.
I'm going to add one more. We're going to get back to your question. But I find it beyond ironic that juries condemn people to death or free convicted prisoners on DNA evidence the theory underpinning that very test is a central piece of evolutionary theory about genetic variation, about mutation, about the statistics of random events, etc. And so society right now depends on DNA evidence for questions of life and death. Yet the DNA record of natural history and evolution, we're not willing to contemplate it? Unimaginable. How can we have that happen? Go ahead.
My name is Juliet. I just have two questions. The first one's really short. For the two scientists, do you two believe in God? And secondly, how do you reconcile your belief in God with what you do in science? And do they work together? And like, have you seen that they work together, or are they like polar opposites?
Your call.
I don't see a fundamental conflict between religion and evolution. I think, I tried to say this morning, I think evolution is a description of how life changes. It's different than addressing where the whole universe came from, why there's something instead of nothing. Darwin says nothing about why the universe exists at all. And I think that there's still a place, and a critically important place, the why question of how the whole universe came to be, that isn't addressed by evolutionary theory. It's a false conflict to say that believing in evolution means that you have to believe that the universe came from nothing. I don't see the conflict, and it's baffling to me that so many people do.
So my personal concern really centers around, as I said before, the denial of evolution. I won't actually in public discuss what my religious views are. It's a decision I made a long time ago, because I think some people have made this comment before. There was a time when you didn't discuss who you voted for, how much money you made, and what church you went to. And the divisiveness that I think exists in our culture today has come from the breakdown of some of that, I think, good common sense politeness. So I'm not going to answer that direct part of the question. But I want to make clear, I think from the scientific point of view, just echoing what David said, the scientific community's stake in this discussion is all about the denial of evolution and the disregarding the scientific process. We have to understand that our standard of living, David's talking about medicine, hygiene, etc., the technology we have, these are the dividends paid by a scientifically literate culture, or at least a partially literate culture. I think it's very dangerous for us to say there's an entire body of knowledge that is inconvenient or offensive to us, and we're going to ignore that. What you believe beyond the realm of science, and I think scientists have to be very honest about where those boundaries are, what you believe beyond that is really part of the freedom we have as individuals, and especially the freedom we have in this country. So I think when scientists feel that their body of knowledge has been disregarded and infringed by the sense that it's going to be rejected out of hand by particular groups, that's what we're reacting against. And we, like other individual citizens, would like to have complete religious freedom outside of that. Hand right there? Yeah.
I was just wondering, Father Weissman, if you could clarify the distinction between creationism and intelligent design, if they are, in fact, the same thing or two different ideas?
Okay, the creationism and intelligent design, are they exactly the same? I would, Dr. Roos probably would have a fuller answer, but in my opinion, creationism is the larger umbrella term. There are, for example, young Earth creationists who believe that the world has only been around for 10,000 years or so, and there are other creationists who would accept a much longer geological era, but nevertheless be anti-Darwinian. Now, the intelligent design people, as I understand the history of it, and I've not gone into it in great detail, were originally quite willing to speak in religious language and to say even that this intelligent designer is God. When I believe myself that when they found that was running into legal pitfalls in terms of separation of church and state, they began to speak much more generally, just in sort of neuroscientific terms, not indicating who or what they thought this intelligent designer might be, but sort of leaving it up to your own ingenuity or imagination. But I think, in fact, it is intended to be, in their own minds, a kind of a religious position. I do believe that. Could you add to that, maybe?
Well,
or even disagree?
I think that this is absolutely right. But the question is intelligent design a form of creationism? And the answer is no, if you're insisting that it always be 6,000 years, 6 days, because certainly somebody like Michael Behe, a leading intelligent designer, he's quite open, he doesn't believe that. But this goes back to the point I made in my last answer. I think that intelligent design does properly fall under the creationist umbrella, if you like, inasmuch as these are manifestations of a deep worry about modernism, about the sorts of stuff that people feel very threatened by, even nice-looking guys like this. Look at them, they're not even